You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Thursday, Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. If this is the first thing you are listening to, your first listen, as they want me to say, and almost never do, on Thursday. No, this is second. This is 2 of 2. Because I didn't have Monday and Tuesday podcasts, but we did a reaction to the team captains. Part of that was knowing that our schedule was going to be that. But this is now the mailbag, our normal Thursday deal. So we are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Did I say that before? I don't know. As I have pointed out many a time, I don't know anything about anything. Can't remember nothing. Can't even remember what happened 15 seconds ago. Maybe I said it once. Maybe I said it twice. You beat the judge. Time will tell. So we are going to get to our leaders and best on the mailbag. And he has all of 10 seconds here and doesn't look like we've got... we don't have James Crudup. This is like the end of an epic streak. I think he has asked a question. He has led us off. Part of the leaders and best on the mailbag. I think every single week since I started doing it. And I hope everything is okay. But no James Crudup. So we're just going to go right to Josh Barr at Jadicke. We think it will come down to Michigan and Ohio State for the Big Ten East, but do you think the teams will end up from third through last place this season? Or how do you think the teams will end up from third to last place this season? I actually somewhat thought this through earlier today. I was talking to Jake Butt. He was telling me everything he was going to say on Big Ten Network. He did an amazing job on his debut on Big Ten Today. He said Penn State at number 3, and part of me wants to agree with that. However, as much as it's going to draw the ire of a lot of people here, I think I have more faith in Michigan State. Now, I don't think Michigan State's going to necessarily be great, right? I don't. But I think that I'm really big on that Jake and Broussard kid. I'm not as big. They've talked about Jalen Berger as the running back. I think that the one from Colorado is better. But they still have offensive line problems. They lost some of their offensive linemen, so I think their defense will be better. But how much better is the question? Not sure. So I'm going to go MSU 3rd, Penn State 4th, Maryland 5th, Rutgers 6th, Indiana 7th. So I think that's exactly what it was last year. So that's what I'm going for. Is I think it might be the exact same order. And it's not because certain teams didn't get better or worse. I mean, you might flip Indiana and Rutgers, because Rutgers just got a brutal schedule. But I think that's it. My brother Metal Michael Wolf at MWolf21. What things need to happen in game 1 for you to feel more confident for the season? I mean, I feel pretty confident for the season anyway. What, you want me to be more confident? I feel like I'm one of the only people out there that's being pretty confident. I mean, everyone's confident, but I mean, I'm sitting out here saying like 11-1. I put up 10-2 on paper. No, I put 11-1 on paper. I think I'm. Remember last year I said 9-3 is what I put on paper and 10-2 is what I'm going for. Like that's kind of what I feel. Really. I'm doing the same thing this year. I put 11-1 on paper. I honestly think that there's a strong chance they go undefeated this year in the regular season. Beyond that, I don't know. There's no way to tell because we don't know what the schedule is going to be or what other teams are going to be. But what Michigan needs to do for me to be more confident, I think, is not take the foot off the gas pedal even against the 3 non-conference games. I just want to see them look sharp defensively. Maybe not week 1, but sometime in those first 2-3 weeks, I want to see them hold whatever team to no touchdowns. I want no touchdowns from the other teams. That's hard to do, especially in week 1, but we'll see. All right. Jimmy Whitner at Jimmy Whitner 1. What would you say is the biggest improvement from spring practice to fall? It's got obviously several questions here. I don't know from spring practice to fall per se what it is, but it seems like defensive communication is probably the biggest one. I think that's hard to say because like they say things in fall camp that it's hard to tell what's real. And we buy into it and all of that, but it's hard to tell what's real. I think going from seeing what the spring game looked like compared to what... And Michigan rarely admits its weaknesses anymore, so that makes things that much harder. So I'm not really sure. Number 2, looking at our current commit list, what position is our biggest need? Like to see... I mean, quarterback, if they can get Jaden Davis, doesn't really matter. If they don't take one this year, I don't think too much. I know they really like Davis Warren and behind JJ McCarthy. I would say running back. They need to get a big time running back. I don't think they're going to do it this cycle, but that's what they need. More offensive linemen, more defensive linemen. I mean, not defensive ends, but interior guys. And a linebacker. They got a lot of needs in this class that they need to fill. There's still a lot of time, so we'll see. Number 2, looking at our... Oh, you already did that one. Number 3, can you recommend a breakfast spot to try on game day? My favorite, it's a local... I think it's a local chain, but maybe it's not. Jagged Fork is my favorite overall. If you want something that's a little bit more off radar, Taco King. I had a breakfast burrito from there today. I get it a couple times a week. I get it with chorizo. I asked for extra egg, no lettuce for whatever reason they put on there. Lettuce, rice, and beans. I nix all that. Add extra egg, chorizo, guacamole, sour cream. Incredible. Love it. A lot of people like Angelo's. I think it's okay. I'm kind of lukewarm on it. I haven't gone to Stray Hen yet, but I've heard a lot of really good things. And that's a place I really want to get to. Stray Hen Cafe, which is where Fred's used to be. And then I changed Fred's to Wilma's. And then pandemic killed it. But it looks incredible. All right. So I had reached out about 10 minutes before I started recording. And James Crudup got back to me finally. So here we go. He's not first, but he's still here. How late do you let the starters go at each position, given what we think we know? I mean, if they... Here's the thing. I want pedal to the metal, yes. But if the game is out of hand, I don't want Cade McNamara. I don't want Ronnie Bell. I want all those guys to be sitting, right? You've got a lot of depth that you can get out there and play, which can make you that much more dangerous even for later in the season, for next year, all that kind of stuff. So I would be like, hey, halftime, you're up by 21 points. I'm going to give you one more series. Make it 28, and then done. That's probably the way I would do it. KRTF Farmer 84. What would you say is/was the most impactful player to Michigan football in the Harbaugh era? This one's tough, man. This one's tough. From a recruiting standpoint, I would say it's JJ McCarthy. From a recruiting standpoint, because I think he really rallied the troops. Cade McNamara did as well. I mean, that's one of the things that Mike Sanders still talked about today. But I think that from a recruiting standpoint is JJ, but we haven't seen yet what he's going to be, right? It's from a playing standpoint, the most impactful player. I'm going to have to go with Jake Rudock. Because without Jake Rudock, I don't know that Michigan goes 10-3 in Harbaugh year 1. I don't think he sets you up for that type. I think I no offense to some of the other quarterbacks that were on the roster. I just don't think that without Jake Rudock that you've set yourself up well for the future. And Michigan's not going to get the same leeway that Steve Sarkisian gets at Texas. They're not going to get that. Well, they went 5-7, but they're going to be really good next year. They weren't going to get that. It'd be like Harbaugh. Even before the season, when they were like Harbaugh would be lucky to make a bowl game, say they went 6-6, they would be like, he's awful. He's not. This team hasn't improved. We said that it would be lucky if we made a bowl game, but we didn't mean it. We expected what we ended up actually getting. Type thing. So, finishing us out in segment 1, Jonathan Joseph at 21:56. It's almost game week, but is Carol Hutchins on the Mount Rushmore of Michigan coaches? Absolutely. I mean, she's the winningest coach in the history of Michigan athletics. Coached in Ann Arbor for 38 years. I was 2 when she started coaching in Ann Arbor. It doesn't get more prolific. Sad to see her go, even though I've only been to one Michigan softball game ever. But maybe it was 2. I think it was 1 though. In 2017, Big Ten tournament against Big Ten tournament against Michigan State, and they lost. But it's going to be sad to see her go. It's different that they're moving on. That's where we're at. All right, let us continue. We still got plenty more. Not as many as last week. I'm very excited about that because that was hard to fit like 40 questions into 30 minutes. But BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today to use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we still got plenty more to come from, starting with our Victors Valiant. We've got 4 question askers, multiple questions, and then I believe we have the same deal, 5 in the last segment. So this is like a perfect deal for me, like low stress. I love when there's a ton of questions, and I hate it when there's like 8 because I can't make a whole show out of it. This is perfect, especially after last week. Let's start with Jim in the North. Who is the quarterback I need to start screaming for once JJ gets the job and proves he's human? Davis Warren, duh. Davis Warren. Listen, if he would have been healthy, he would have been a 5-star. But his perseverance shows that he's an even better 5-star than JJ. He's so good. We need to see. He looked so good in that spring game. He's going to be so good. And if not Davis Warren, then Alan Bowman. Did you see how many yards that dude threw for at Texas Tech? And if not him, Alex Orji can just run, man. Like, who doesn't want a quarterback that can throw but is also the size of a linebacker with speed? Oh, man. I want it for me. It will be so good. That's what we need. It will always be the backup. The only one, like I said before, the only one that was impervious to this was Jake Rudock. Because there wasn't really a backup that anyone was screaming for. Wilton Spate, no one was super excited about him. Shane Morris was like, the moment concussion gate happened, it was like no one cared. No one really wanted Alex Malzone. No offense again to those guys. Those guys are acquaintances of mine now that they've graduated, but there was not the fan excitement for anyone behind Jake Rudock. And he played all right. Has Michigan gotten a player who's had some issues before? Could this be a sign admissions are easing up a bit? No, because here's the thing. It's Ayabi Anoma, is who I'm assuming you're referencing. He's a grad transfer. He graduated from UT Martin. So that at least he graduated, right? He wasn't like it sounds like he didn't fail out at Alabama or Houston for the same reasons that a lot of people do, because it wasn't because he couldn't hack it. He just wasn't going to class. Same reason I got kicked out of Michigan. I was like, I'm leaving. And they're like, no, you got kicked out. I'm like, oh. And then I had to shore things up, go to community college, come back. All that stuff. The types of things you kind of do when you're young, right? But no, I don't think admissions is easing up a bit. When you're grad transfer, you can graduate from anyone. And it's because you got your degree, right? You're starting anew as a grad transfer. So will Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, or someone else get the Haskins type yards? I mean, I think that it would be Blake Corum. I think he was on track to be the leading rusher for the Wolverines last year. Had he not gotten hurt, I'm pretty sure through those first several games, he was that guy. I do want to double check because I think that is an interesting thing. Because, okay, so rushing, we're going to do it by go Blake Corum, game log. So he had fallen off a little bit in a couple of these games, right? But he got injured in the Indiana game and then didn't play for 2 more weeks. So missed 2.75 games here. His stat line looks as such: 111, 171, 125, 68, 46. That's Wisconsin, of course. 89, 119, 45, 4. So we won't count the Indiana game, and I'm not adding anything up here. But Hassan Haskins, his stat line goes 70, 155, 56, 41, 47, 123, 110, 59. So Blake's got him beat, I think, in pretty much all around. He was better in pretty much every game. About the same in Wisconsin, about the same in Washington. Otherwise, he had a couple better games. Northwestern more, Michigan State about the same. So I think they were on the same path, the same track. It's that Haskins turned on the Jets for the next 4 games. 168 against Indiana, 156 against Penn State. Not as much against Maryland, 78. 169 against Ohio State. So Corum would still be my choice. He was lighting things up before all that. Spencer Whitmore. Spencer Whitmore is the highest optimism heading into a season. Is this the highest optimism you felt heading into a season since you've covered the team? 2016 felt similar as a fan. I think it's about the same as 2016, to be honest. To me, there's an air of they can do this. 2016 might have been a little bit higher for me in some ways because even though there was some offensive questions, I think this team is more talented than 2016 overall, but 2016 just had like this feel of like they're going to do it. And then right out of the gates, 66-3 or whatever it was against Hawaii, it was like, no, they are going to do it. So I think this team is deeper. I feel like there are more question marks, though. But at the same time, the places where there's question marks are some of the places I feel more confident, like the defense overall. So, yeah, I do think this is maybe... It's at least on equal footing as 2016. But I think one of the big differences is I think Ohio State's more talented than it was at that point. I think Ohio State took their entire program up a major level, and that makes things really more difficult. If Ohio State was the same type of team as it was in 16, 17, even 18, I know things went 62-39 on Michigan, but I would feel like any of those years, I think I would just feel like Michigan would probably come in and just dominate with this particular team. That's how I feel. Mark Zimke, if you were evaluating a player to start or make the 2 deep, how would you rank the following? Pure athleticism, comprehension of scheme, technique. Ooh, that's rough. That's a tough one, man. I think it would have to be... I mean, you have to have pure athleticism in there. It has to be. Like, it can't be... You can't necessarily... I think you'd probably need... Might be that exact order. It's probably... Actually, comprehension of scheme, pure athleticism, technique is how I'd rate it. Because you have to know what you're doing out there. And if you don't have good technique, you can make up for it with pure athleticism. That's how I would do it. But man, that's tough. Good question. Finishing us out in segment 2, Tyler at T_Force1. I think the loss of Hassan Haskins is being underrated. Yes, Michigan is very capable of backs, but last year, 3rd and less than 4 was almost automatic. And that was also huge in play calling on 1st and 2nd down. How do the Wolverines overcome that? Is it as simple as Dunlap/Mullings? Also, what if it didn't snow in Ann Arbor on November 27th, 2021? As much as the Buckeyes won't admit this, the same thing would have happened. It was 80 degrees. It would have been all the same. All the things that happened against Oregon, Michigan did to them worse. Same deal. So, snow's just a part of a litany of excuses. They didn't have the flu when they played Oregon. You know? The excuses are weird. I mean, if there were refereeing excuses, then fine. I think that's fair in any game. But they didn't have that. We had the flu and it was it was cold. We were chilly. As far as Hassan Haskins, I mean, he did help move the offense. I think that they have other capable backs, though, and I don't think it necessarily has to be one of the third down backs. It could be Blake Corum. It could be, having wiggle could be a different thing too, right? And Blake Corum could be that guy. Donovan Edwards could be that guy. The fact that you've got Donovan Edwards, AJ Henning, any number of guys you can put out there at the same time creates issues for the defense. You don't have to necessarily run at them. You hope that you can, that it can be, we're going to run at you and there's nothing you can do about it, but you don't necessarily have to do that. And I just think having good play calls is, and especially on first and second down is part of it. So, I do think it is a big loss. I'm not saying it isn't a big loss, but it's kind of the same as, Aiden and David Ajabo in the sense of like they've managed to have pretty good offenses in Ann Arbor before without. I mean, this was the best in the Jim Harbaugh era, yes. Part of it's because of Hassan Haskins. I don't think it's solely, of course. So they've got other playmakers. They just got to utilize them. Utilize them as they best can. Haskins, one of his best things is he could fall forward. Other guys, they have other talents. Put them in a position to succeed. All right, let's continue on. We've got 5 more questions. We'll get to those just momentarily. All right, finishing up podcast 2 of 2. It's the Michigan Mailbag. Very excited to do that. We've got 5 more questions to go in this one. I don't think we're going to reach 30, believe it or not. Maybe we will, because get long-winded. Zan at Zanland, which German will have better stats this year? German Green or Julius Welshkoff? For some reason, I read that almost Spanish. I almost said Julius, which I know is not correct. I think obviously both will play. German Green looked really good in the spring game. He's been mentioned here and there, not in like, oh man, he is just breaking out, but just like, yeah, he's one of the dudes at corner. Finally, they switched him from safety to corner. But if memory serves, German was actually the higher rated recruit. I kind of want to see that. But I think because one of them was a 4-star and the other one was a 3-star. And I think German was the 4-star. I think. I'm pretty sure. Because it was whoever was the safety and that's who he was. Maybe I think I might have it backwards. It might have been Jamon. Yeah, it's because German was a 3-star rated 1225 nationally. So it must have been Jamon. That was the higher rated one. Yes, he was 382. So I was wrong. He actually wasn't a 4-star. He must at one point. I'm pretty sure he was. But German, I think, had broken something. I don't remember how it went. There was a whole bunch of like weird things we were being told, like, oh, well, this one's really good, but but this one is actually, he got injured and he'd be even better, all kinds of stuff like that. So Jamon had 24 offers. I know I'm taking a tangent because I'm personally curious at the moment about this. German only had 10, so I think Jamon was probably always the better one. That said, I mean, Julius Welshkoff is a 4-star, constantly been a freak. On the 2 years running on the Freaks Athletes list. Played a bit in 2020 as a defensive tackle. Looked okay at times, like looked really good at times, and then looked okay a lot of other times. Now they have him back at edge. I think we'll see him more than people think. I mean, he has the potential of being really good. I think we'll see him more than people think. So we'll see. Wolverine Chronicle at Wolverine Chron. How early and often do you think we'll use Ayabi Anoma? Well, I think the benefit of having this schedule as it is that you can hopefully tinker a bit. But basically, you got to put the first team defense out there and be like, all right, go prove it. Prove it for a half so that we can go and bring in some of these guys that need some work. Could he see 1 or 2 snaps outside of that? Like either like a 3rd and long type situation or whatever? Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that they do, but then you can play him a bit more in the second. Hopefully he's feeling the scheme a bit more. Then you take him out after that and you say, let's look at the film. Here's what you did right. Here's what you did wrong. The typical stuff, but like really try to indoctrinate him into the scheme, that way instead of just holding him out because he is that type of talent. Just kind of get him in a little bit. And then maybe, just maybe, by week 5, like David Ajabo did, like you say he gets a sack in week 2 or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. Now we're working. Get that confidence so that maybe by week 5, week 6 or something like that, he knows what he's capable of. The team or the coaches know what he's capable of and just go from there. Greg Villacerda at Coach Villa. I did it both ways just to make sure that, playing both sides. So I always come out on top there with the way I pronounced your name. Do you think Michigan can have the same game plan this year against Ohio State and win in the shoe? I do. They didn't react well to getting punched in the mouth. Absolutely. Because I do think that Ohio State will benefit to some degree this year from playing Wisconsin and Iowa because they'll understand a little bit more about what it's like to get punched in the mouth, at least on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, I'm not, Maryland will have its moment of like challenging them through the air. I don't think that they'll get mauled up front defensively. I don't know how good Notre Dame's front is right now. And then who else? There's really no one else. They'll get a little taste of it against Wisconsin. But yes, I think Michigan is built to still do what it did last year against Ohio State. That's the main reason why that I think that Michigan has a really good shot and why I would put Michigan in I'm like 60 Michigan, 40 Ohio State on that light. I think they'll still get punched in the mouth. I don't know how your team's not tough. You're not just going to say, okay, we'll be tough now against a team that's already tough. That's already physical, right? Hey, that team's physical. Well, we need to become more physical. You think Michigan stopped being physical? I don't think that's how that's going to work. So, yeah, I agree with you. Pete Nugent at Pete Nugent 4. If you were an opposing coaching staff trying to scheme against this team, what are some weaknesses both offensively and defensively from us that you would try to exploit? If I was a coach going up against the Michigan defense, I would try to attack the middle of the field. I don't know that would necessarily work, but that's what I would try to do. I would do one of two things, the middle of the field and the boundary. Because I even though I think the corners are going to be really good, I think the linebackers are going to be good. I still think that Michigan will be solid, more so in the front and parts of the back. So I would test some of the young safeties, really. That's kind of what I would do. Other side of the ball, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do against Michigan's offense to stop them. I think it's more hope Michigan figures out a way to stop itself because they've got too many playmakers to be able to stop them all. I don't know if there's an answer to that. Michigan's got to stop itself, which we've seen happen plenty of times. Try to confuse Cade McNamara and or J.J. McCarthy as much as possible and hope they mess up. Because I don't think anyone's going to out-physical that front and all that. Finishing us out, Chicago football guy at Midwestman21. What weapons should be allowed when the inevitable war breaks out in the fan base over who should start at QB? Everything's on the table. Everything is on the table. If you have a mace, my weapon of choice is a 300 blackout. That would just be the way I'd go. Although a mace would be pretty cool. Nunchucks. All right, that's going to do it for us. We did get to 30 minutes, pretty much. So that's going to do it. We'll be back on Friday. Not sure exactly what we're going to talk about. I'm sure something will grind my gears. And we'll go from there. But thank you for watching and or listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.